Hi everyone, welcome back into the studio. Well, I promised you we would do this one more floral, and I did this, I posted it up into the community page for some of you to see. I painted this mousse, quick little study, took me about 94, 97 minutes, right around there. I did film it, but I have to overdub it, but I am going to paint him up bigger. I got enough response back from a lot of people that collect my paintings and stuff. They want to see me develop that look a little bit more. And so I'm going to do it. I'm going to do him up big. So I've already sketched him up big right there. And so that one is going to be 24 by 34. And he's going to, I don't know, I'll probably keep him for the gallery. I don't know. But anyway, it's a really good look. It's a fun way to paint. And I think I'm going to take it, you know, I promised you another floral. I promised you a big, you know, more of an elegant type of floral, and I think this type of technique that I'm using on the mousse, using these really lost edges, I mean really lost edges, to drive more contrast into the center of interest, which is right up by his head and his horns area, right up in there. I think that this will look great in a floral, so I want to try it in this floral, and if it works out, then we'll do it in a bigger one for you here this next week, okay? I also have the seascape. So today I'm going to paint 2 paintings and film them up. So let's hope it works, okay? All right. So what I have here is just a board that I use a lot of times for, you know, quick paintings and stuff. This is, you know, you could use a 14 by 18, so 14 this way, 18. This was just an end cut from it. And it did finish up absolutely beautiful here, but it is 13 inches by 17 inches. So 14, 18, 13, 17, somewhere around there, okay? And then I gave it 2 coats of the canvas prep medium, which is a medium that we use for prepping canvas and also for prepping the boards. And I gave it 2 coats of that, sanded it lightly with 180 sandpaper. And then these are a set of roses that I really like. These are hybrid tea roses. These are Just Joey, called Just Joey. And you can find these types of photos. I'm not going to copy any one particular. I'm going to use it for petaling ideas as I go into and coloring ideas. So you can see them out here in full sun, and these are a little bit in shade, so you can see some of the colors in there a little bit more. But anyway, let's get at it, okay? So I take the board, and when I did the mousse and stuff, which you'll see in the full mousse lesson and everything, I'm going to be painting into the background, manipulate it into the background, or wet in the wet. Then I'm going to come right in to the center of the painting with some of my huge contrast colors. So we'll talk about that. These are my palette colors that I'm using today. These are all listed for you in the video description below, like I always do. The color that I'm adding to the palette this time is this medium white, and which is a nice color. I think I can drive this medium white over to go with these Just Joeys really well, and I'll explain that. I'm going to take an big old brush and some medium white and some extender. The extender is going to thin out the color and give me a longer working time. And I like to do this. I like, if I'm going to work into some softer techniques, I like to have some color onto the background. And this medium white is just a beautiful warm color. It's made from white, yellow, yellow oxide, and a tiny touch of black. That's how we make it. And so it's just, I mean, it's just a beautiful color. So we'll do that. I'll put that on. I'll leave some of this white area out here. I like that. Now, let's work in, let's think about, you know, some of the colors that you want to put into contrast. Well, when I did the mousse, you know, he had this real color, this beautiful color on top of his head, sunlit color that was in the yellows to the burnt siennas, and the complements to that are the blues. And so if I really want to get something you know, in complement and contrast with it, I'll head to the complement. Well, on the Just Joeys, they're going to be these, basically these peach and orange, almost like what we did in the last video. And so I'm going to, and I just mixed that up too much. I don't want to mix it up too much. I want some of these blues and stuff to come in through here, which is my color of contrast. But I want to keep the painting itself softer. So I'm going to work it into this wet background and lose the edges, lose some of the color that's back here. I love, and this is what I like to do, and it always sells well for me when I do this, when I push a little bit of the purpley or bluish lighter, so I keep it lighter and cleaner by adding a bit of white instead of the medium white there, white, so it doesn't have that yellow in that, and work that in softer back up here, so you can see it's quite a bit softer there. Now, into the moose, he has a lot of stuff going on, so I worked into his background. I actually took some of the colors and I used my knife in as well to work some of these colors into the background with a little bit more action than the smoothness of a brush. And that is really a lot of fun to do. And so we can do a little bit of that. I don't want to do too much. I want to keep these a little softer, and I want to keep my brush moving here, so I don't want to do too much. But I did this kind of stuff into the moose and work my knife into this wet color. And as a matter of fact, I used the real big blending knife that you've seen me use before on things, and just drag that right on down, drag some of those looks across, tap it like this, and you get some of these other different looks to it. Makes a really nice kind of mottled background, and he's got a lot of work into his background. For these Just Joeys, though, I think for the elegance of this, you know, I do a lot of really contemporary looks, because they, you know, for me as a painter that sells his work, those contemporary works sell really well. I put a lot of high contrast in it. This one, I want to try to experiment a little bit softer. So I'm going to leave that just a little bit softer. Matter of fact, we might come back up here white, medium white, and streak some of that right back through that. And I'm looking for just some nice softer tones, because I want to keep everything soft. Okay, let's give that a quick rinse out of that brush, and I'll set that to the side here. And let's go in with a smaller brush, one of my favorite painting ones, the 3/4 inch. And I like the long handles because I step way back on the handle, and this keeps it really soft, keeps the tip soft, and lets me work the colors. So what I want to do is pull some colors out of the center of the flowers here, and I love this open one. I might put him, you know, right in here. Now sometimes you see me wipe out with a paper towel and, you know, put the design on that way, and that's really good, but not today, because I want to work these colors in and out of each other. And so I want these, you know, it's almost like in the portrait painter Oppenheim that lets these colors flow. He calls it the colors flow one into the other. You don't have individual demarcations between the colors that you get in a lot of in a lot of painting styles, but mostly like in illustrator styles and stuff. So he let these colors one flow right into the other, and that keeps a softer look. And that's what I did on that moose. I let that background on that one side right there flow right into the moose, okay? And it's like an Oppenheim, and, you know, like his particular technique. So anyway, I'm going to take some of these colors, and I just love those peach colors that we did this last time, and let's just soften that up. Let's lighten it up right now, but let's just make a yellow, a little bit of our quinacridone here that'll allow us to use a really nice quinacridone into the deep. And let's just say, okay, I'm going to paint maybe this open one right in here, and this is real thick paint that I'm putting on, and I'm working these together. See, I work these together. So this color, just like it's heavy right where I put it, I'll put it on really thick here. I want this rose to kind of come right in there. Don't want to go too much bigger. I'm having so much fun, I'm going to grow it too big, and I don't want to do that. I'll put this open one. Maybe I'll grab one like this turned one right up here. Let's take a look at him. That would be pretty. These are going to be, I can see this as a big long board, and doing some magnificent flowers on this. So it's going to be an excellent technique for the elegance of that one that I promised you, a bigger floral, more elegant, a lot of work into it. So we'll do that. Let's let this flow right down here into some other colors. So we'll take, so this is the Diarylide Yellow, and some of our, just a bit of our quinacridone makes these lovely peach colors here. And then I'll work it right here into this background. Now, one of the things that I really want to do is I want to establish some of my real darks in here. So I'll go maybe even a little bit of our burnt sienna and that quinacridone. See how beautiful and dark, it's a dark rich. And we'll plow that right down into here. And see, I'm using the big brush, and a lot of artists, a lot of real casual artists, especially today's more, we call them representational or impressionistic artists, we use a brush, and I was watching one the other day, a wildlife painter that I really like, and he's a lot younger than me, and it's just not fair, you know, but he's so good, Dustin Van Wychel. And I was watching him, and he's starting to teach and do some of his courses and stuff, and he's just fantastic. And those of you that don't know Dustin Van Wychel, this is his name, go look at some of his stuff, and he's so knowledgeable and so great at what he does. And we do a lot of the same things. He just does it a little better, but he's really good. And he was saying that you know, and it's just repeating what Sargent and all of the other, you know, Victorian other painters that we all study said. You use a large brush as possible when you paint these areas. And he said something that was really neat in his video. He said, I use a brush that is large, and then I go a little larger, so it's almost uncomfortable large to use. And then that causes you to use it a little bit differently as you spin it and do it other ways. And that's what I do. And that's what I've been telling you guys for the last couple of years. I tap, use the corners and stuff, and then that makes the painting more casual. Let's just drop in some color right down here, because we just want to hit some of that color. Let's just get some of that color right down here. Boom, right down in through there. Because we want to keep that, I want to keep that contemporary look. But I want like Oppenheim. This is Oppenheim. Colors flow, run right into the other here. And I like that. You know, he would take this and push these out like this. Here, the colors flowing through each other, through something like that. Now, let's express some of the individual colors, the yellows that we'll have. Maybe a spot or two of some of those yellows. The Diarylide, beautiful color, because you'll see up there some bright spots. And one of the things that an artist will tend to do, see, I'm real light with the pressure of my brush. It's almost too big, so I approach it really careful. And what I'm thinking about all the time is this circular motion. That's what I'm thinking about. Let's get a little bit more, maybe a little red violet with this burnt sienna in a nice deep, right in the corner of my brush. Let's get that. See, there's really nice deep darks that's going to be down here, and we'll just tap that through there into that center, right? Maybe a bit. We'll use a bit down through here. We don't know what's here yet. I don't quite know yet. You know, and I love this turned one right here. And I wish I can almost, maybe I can. Let's just see if I can sneak one right up here like this. Smaller, turned way into the back. Now, and then, so now what I'm going to do is, you can see in through here, there's lights and darks and other colors, right? And you have seen me in other videos. I like to flow the colors together, and one right into the other. Especially if I'm painting transparent roses, I flow the background into the rose, and that's what we want to do here. So I'm going to take a little bit of this open medium. This is the Daravan open medium right here, which is completely compatible with our paints because Daravan manufactures here's our formula for us. And we make sure, so we know. So we're going to push a little bit of this open medium. This is going to keep this whole area of these flowers really wet for a long time and allow me to do some of the manipulation of the greens that I want to do. So I'm going to take some of my green. I love the pine green. I love pine green and that burnt sienna. Let's just add a little bit of extender here. And I want this, I'm going to push these colors right here. This is an Oppenheim. Let them flow right into each other. In other words, move right in and out through each other. Okay? So we'll push some of that green in. This will form some of that base here. Some of this in now, and some of this into my background out here. This could be leaves or something out here, out further out into my composition. I want to take a little more burnt sienna, a little more green, a little thicker color of this right in here. I want this flow. See how these are flowing together? I don't want to do it too much because they'll blend together too much. Now, what I want to do is, if you don't want to, if you don't know anything about your paints, never touch your paints. But I know all of these, and they're all completely non-toxic, and I painted with them since 2008, since I developed them, and I know that. But you can just use your brush, and I want to start flowing these colors. So I want to flow, and it sounds kind of crazy, but I want to flow the green into my roses here a bit. And I'm looking for some edges here. See how they blur out? That's what I'm looking for, some of these edges and blurring out. Let's take some of this color and just drop that in here. Right? And you can always, let's say that I want to reverse and take something out. You rinse your brush. What's your solvent on anything? Water. See, I can come back with if I want to reestablish a highlight, or say I took something out too much, I can just take some water in my brush and remove that back and add an element of light or spark or something like that to it. Now, all right, I keep moving, keep everything moving. And it's summertime here. It is 100 degrees outside, so I'd want to keep moving. My colors are going to stay wet for the entire painting, but I don't want to take a chance. So I'm going to make up some more of my rose color here and just flow and push some of this rose color right back into this other green. So now here into this rose, you see I've got some of this is what's going to create the transparency and the flowing of all of these colors. And if you look up real close, like at some roses and stuff, you know, you'll get reflected and bouncing light right around through anything into a composition. And so if you look real hard and if you squint real hard, you'll see there's green in there. And so we've got to get some of that in there if that's what we want to have. And that's what I'm emulating here. So I want some of this, and I want to take some of this softly out like this. Just boom, boom, boom. This makes the soft outsides and stuff of my flowers. This isn't anything but flowing my colors together here. And I want to soften just a little bit of this. And you see, that's still, I want to leave some of that, those marks though, right in there. But I want to soften some of that. Let's come up here, grab a little bit of our open medium, a little bit more of that yellow. That's really a little heavier yet, right up here. Let's just pow that right in there. Look at that beautiful color that's right in there. And let's put some of that, look at where it is on this other open rose. Right up through here, some powerful color. Put a little open medium in it. It's going to stay wet for a long time, right? Change the way you hold your brush. Get casual, flow it all together. Sometimes, you know, when I was first working on these types, I started doing some of this stuff years ago. And I would get it like this and almost let it dry because I was like so excited about the softness of everything, the blurriness of it, and I didn't want to mess it up, so I'd let it almost dry and then work up on top of it like an acrylic artist, and that does work really well. You can approach it that way as well. So couple of different ways, but look at that. They see that's just kind of really pretty there. Let's toss a little bit of this glowy yellow right down in here. Just boom, right down there. What is that? We don't know. Okay, so I have this. Now, okay, that's my 3/4 inch brush. Now I'm going to go down to go painting the roses. Now, there's a couple of brushes I always talk to you about painting the roses. And this is a number 10. This is a number 8 flat, one of my favorites. And usually I use the 8 or I use a 10, you know, on roses and stuff. 10 is my all-time favorite. This is a 10 filbert. And I use the filbert if I'm going to do a lot more drawing of a rose. And I use a flat if I'm painting just a real casual rose. And today, since I'm not real sure, I'm going to draw some of this rose, draw these petals. And I use the filbert because it's got this, you know, the rounded head of it. And I'll load the head of that brush. Like, I'll pick up a little bit of light color on the edge of that brush. And what that does is that allows me to, like, say I want to draw a petal. I'll roll over onto the end of this little brush right here, see? And I'll just draw the edge of the petal like that. And then I'll just push and pull in, you see. And you can start to draw a petal really easy on any kind of petal that you want to do. And I like that corner, that rounded corner to push over onto that if I'm going to draw some of the petals around. So let's put in a little bit of color. Let's just grab some of our light over here. We'll push it into the corner here. And I'm just going to put on some of the open petals here. Just kind of draw them around, starting on the outside. So I'll just pick up a little bit of light right here on the edge. See, I have it, and it's not pure white because I'll save that white for later. So this is a little too white for right now. So I'll just paint it down a bit, pull in slightly, because this is going to be an open rose here. So I'll put some of this in. Let's just draw some of this. I'll let some of this back because we're not painting that painting. We're painting an effect. So I'm going to let some of this rose down here just kind of fade away. And that's what I want. I want it to Oppenheimer here. Just kind of, or Oppenheim, just kind of fade, flow the colors in. Let that just kind of happen, fade away. I want to build up this part of the rose. Does that make sense? And I like this one, but I'm probably going to put more of a bowl right here so it holds the eye a little bit more than just taking this petal out. Okay? So, you know, I change things, right? I use things for inspiration and I change them, right? So let's just do that. Let's just come in here and let's just build. Now, I want to get a little bit lighter, some of that nice yellow right in there. See, I lean over onto that edge and I'll paint that in. And I don't want to push too hard because I'll blend the colors. I want to kind of just lay the brush across the surface here as I'm starting some of these petals and, you know, keep them soft and stuff here. But I don't want to push and paint too many times because I'll blend it a little softer than what I want. Let's drop in another little slightly different shaped petal here. A little more paint. See, I've got a little more paint. Let's just pull that in, right in towards that bowl that we're going to put right here. And this is really wet. Now what happens here, like I said to you in the last one, if it gets really, really wet, sometimes it's difficult to paint on it. And if you're an acrylic painter, you can let it tack up by working some other areas for a while. It does take practice to learn how to paint wet into wet. It's not always fun, especially if you're, 100% acrylic and not coming from oils where you're used to painting wet into wet. Okay, and so it is a little bit more difficult, but you can do it. Anybody can do it. Let's take and let's soften out those exchanges right there. So I'll take some of this color, some of my center color that I have, some of my earlier color, the quinacridone and the yellow. Don't mix it up real well. And let's just tap that through here. And a little bit of that darker center here. We'll keep that color going. I want to keep this casual nature going into that flower. Let's even put in a mark of a little more, boom, maybe that. That's kind of pretty. And some real dark yellow and that color together. Really pretty colors if they're not mixed up real well. See, it just adds a tremendous amount to that flower there. Okay, let's add just a bit of that, boom, and I'm looking at this right into there. See, I like that green up there. Don't want to lose some of this green. And if I start to lose some of it, I'll just push some of it back into the flower here. I don't want to lose that. That's this color flowing into each other here. I don't want to lose that right there, okay? All right, let's come in using just a corner of the brush, some of this light color, and we'll just give the idea of some of these center. Just tap it around almost like a little corner. And I got that a little heavy, but I'm not going to worry about it because I am a professional, right? I don't worry about it because I can take it out, right? And what is your ultimate solvent? Even if it starts to dry, you can take some water in your brush and lift it off, okay? I'm not worried about it, you know? And so I'm going to just tap a little bit of this to say, here's a petal here, maybe right there, okay? Let's get some of this yellow and this back up in there. I'd love to use the brush just tapping it around. Let's just grab some of this. Now see, I'll lift off some of that with the dark so it's not quite so heavy there into that center, see? Now let's grab some white right back with this yellow and let's come back in there and we'll just kind of swirl this little bits back in there again, okay? And we'll put a little bit more of that petal working right there. That's kind of neat. I like in here, you can see some of that yellow, red violet working in and out of that petal, into the length of that petal. So I'll just pull, not too many times, but I'll pull, and that gives a motion to that petal. And then I can come back out with that light edge here and draw the edge of that petal. And I don't need the whole edge, just a little bit of it here to say that's the petal. Let's put just a touch more. I like that little bead. I pick up that little tiny bead, I roll over onto the edge, and that allows me to draw that petal. So if I'm doing a rose that I want to do these light edges that you will see, you know, you'll see light edges stuff, then I tend to move over to that filbert, and that allows me to roll over onto the brush and draw with it. So, and I like that. Let's just add kind of a petal right in there. And we'll redefine, restate some of my deeper. Let's go burnt sienna and a little bit of that red violet right in there. I love that slightly deeper color down onto this shadow side over here. Maybe a bit of that quinacridone and Diarylide over there. And we'll lighten up a bit. Let's keep this a little more pinky, so not quite as much white. And we'll come out here, see? And see, I'll give that like, that's the edge of the petal with some of the green and stuff coming through. I like that, so I'm going to push that right over here as well. Maybe the tiniest little bit of the light, just so I get a tiny little bit of light, see? Tiny little bit of light, but it picks up some of that green and it gives that whole effect of it fading away. That's what I want. Let's fade some of this away. And you can actually, here on this side, we could actually, and let's try it, we can actually start to paint these petals down over here more into the dark because they're down into the shadow, right? So we could actually paint that part of the rose here. And this one bulb petal that I put in here it's not opening it up as much as what I want here. So I may have gone just a little bit too high. And I did that on purpose so I could show you how I fix it. Do you believe that? So, no. So you can adjust it. What you do is take some of your, don't mix up your colors. Don't mix them up. Don't make a solid color. Model them. Tap them into each other here. And just tap back into that. Take some of that back out. Does that make sense? And now I'll pinch wipe my brush, take out some of that extra color. I'll load back up on with that light little edge. And this time I will keep the edge smaller and closer down towards the bowl shadow, which is right up in here. And that'll work. That'll fix it. Let's put a little bit of that shadow right up there, like that. Okay. And remember, we're trying. What I'm trying to do here too is paint pretty fast. I don't want to get bogged down by too many things, because you know this is my practice really. I mean, it'll be a painting that I will sell, but it's a practice of this really lost edge technique, this softer edge technique that I want to go a little bit further with. And yeah, that looks pretty good. Now let's go with the medium color here. Not as much white, a little bit less white. And let's transition down to the lower part of my petals here, where I'm going to just maybe have a tiniest little bit of light here. The tiniest little bit that helps me draw some of these petals, but I don't need a whole bunch of stuff there going on. And a little more yellow, tiny bit of light. Let's put a bottom part of this bowl maybe right up in here, because this rose is opened up, right? So we'll put just a touch of that light. And you can use it light, but just use very light little pressure to draw that around. Here, don't get too carried away with doing anything here. So, I mean, and you see in the real rose, it gets quite light over there still, but I don't want to do that. So I want this to all kind of start fading away down here on this side, if that makes sense, okay? And on this Just Joey's, they do have real ruffly petals, and you can come back and ruffle some of the petals a little bit more. I don't think I'll worry too much about that with this one. We might do that some more when we do the big composition of this, because I'm going to do a bigger composition with some different kinds of roses. A big elegant painting for you guys. That's what we're going to go for. So let's just push that one in there. Maybe a bit of that quinacridone following that back up. I'm always aware of the bowl. Remember, in the last video I did, the last floral video I did, I told you guys, preserve the bowl, preserve the bowl. Never lose the bowl. The bowl is what gives the rose its roundness, right? And let's just drop in another little one right in there, and maybe a smaller one right across here, just for the ideas of some of that movement. Now, I painted myself, and he has this big folding color one here that helps it. We call these a transitional petal. Mine is not transitioning well enough, so maybe we'll just drop one right out here like this, and sop that down. And I lost the bowl, so we'll just add a bit of shadow right in there for that particular part of the bowl. Maybe a tiny bit, so I'll just take a tiny bit of the light, roll my brush over onto the edge, and drop that light right in there on that. And that helps that potent. I would love to see a little more, maybe a little burnt sienna and a little red violet, not mixed up real well, just tapped back down in here to kind of loosen up that center a little bit more than what I have there. So there you got a really nice. Now, I like the darker contrast that comes from here. That's part of the contrast that I do want to preserve somewhat. And so I'm going to take a little extender, some of my green and my burnt sienna, and negative paint This is negative painting, and I do quite a few videos on negative painting. In negative painting, I will use the dark to shape the petals. So let's just come right up here around like that, and we'll maybe blur into that just a bit so it's a little softer. Let those colors run. Let those edges run here a little bit looser. I like the paint a little bit loose so we can use that to negative paint here. Those edges right in there like that. That looks pretty good. Let's get to a little more red violet, a little more burnt sienna, a little deeper, darker color, contrast color. Just like I do with the mousse, right? I get this cooler color in here, a little green with it this time. Let's get some of that in there. Leave some of the opening here. That's light passing through the composition. So we'll leave some of that. We'll come back up here, maybe establish, just let these flow into each other. Blur it out, flow them into each other. Let's take some of that burnt sienna, a little green, a little red violet here. And we'll just loosen up some of these stems that are here. It's all the contemporary looks that I really like here. And let's just blur that out here, because that could be a back stem. Maybe softer, put a little bit of our background color into it, which will help soften it out here. Pull that out. We only need a couple of, more prominent stems, because that is because of the way the flowers and stuff are there. Now see, when I did the mousse, like say right up along his back, right up in there, right there. You see that right there? What I did is I took and I come back with my brush and I start adding to this, into this background, some of the violets and stuff here. And I want this a little bit, if I add white, it stays bright. If I add the medium white, it cools down, it tones down, grays down, because it has yellow in it, which is the complement of this. But I could use that inside any of these areas right up in through here to, and you can see I can stroke it all different kinds of ways, but all of a sudden it adds this other bit of, and I want to flow these colors. And it's a little different, see? A little different. Flow those colors, very contemporary. Flow these colors. I'm looking at the edges. Do I want to do any negative painting with it? So I pop off an edge a little bit more, or do I just leave it? That all becomes your artistic statement, your statement, right? What do you want to do? And I like that little bit of that vertical with that. See, that's kind of a pretty little look. And on the mousse over there, I did it quite heavy in a couple of areas, looking at just the painting to see just how much, and I don't need that much, but I might come over right over in here and hit some of that color. Does that make sense? That's the, we want that color to carry through and pull through, right? Yeah. That's it's the beautiful thing, guys, about painting. And that is your creativity. You just let it come out. Now, I know it doesn't always work. It doesn't, guys. I have people that make these comments, and it just breaks my heart when you make these comments. Mine will never look like yours. Or, I tried and tried and tried. I can't make it look like yours. I've been painting roses for 40 years. And for the first 20 years, I screwed them up. Always telling myself I'm going to be able to paint them. Now I completely, totally understand them. And it wasn't really the number of years that I painted them. It was the number of times I tried different things. Trying different things. What happens is we get locked. If you want something so bad, you get locked in and you just repeat the same things over and over and over again. And because you're into a habit of painting, and then you say, mine never changed. It's because you haven't done, and this is very important, and listen to me right now, okay, all of you. It's because you haven't done anything that changes your brush. Does that make sense? What am I doing different on my roses today? Why am I doing them different? Because I painted a mousse. And now I'm taking these mousse techniques into my roses. I don't make my roses better by practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing roses. Certainly you will come to a point, but you'll peak out. What you need to do is paint something different to help you understand color, movement, edges. Look at something different. Does that make sense? Okay. That's my little word for you guys. Don't insult your painting. Never insult your painting. And paint as many different things as possible. After I paint these roses today, I'm going to paint a seascape with you guys. And hopefully you go do that. And then when I publish the video with the mousse in it, you'll go paint yourself a mousse. Because that will make you a better rose painter. And it will. Practicing roses for the rest of your life won't do it. You need something else in there to help you with that. And so then as I move further out here, I'm going to take this color a little bit transparent up here. And if it isn't enough for me, I'll do this, or I'll just add this right to my medium. Oh, God, that's pretty. Medium white. Let that flow right into that. Look at that. Let that flow right into that edge. Ooh-wee. That's pretty. Okay. Let's calm down just a bit and just pull that right down. Let that flow in. Oh, that worked. Big brush. It always answers the problem. Boy, this is the edge of that mousse. That's what I did with the edge of that mousse. Is I took a big brush on these colors at the end and just flowed them together like that. So you lose those edges. That looks pretty amazing. If I do say so myself. I like it. Okay. And you can do this, guys. You can do it. You just got to paint a mousse, right? You know? Yes, okay. And so let's go back in. Let's keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Let's go back in with some light color here. And let's paint up the front of this one, which is going to be more closed. Let these colors flow together, right? Add a little extender, a little open medium. Let the colors flow. We'll use a bit of light. Let's put a petal right out here. And we'll let this move right in and out here and disappear. That'll be great. Now there's that wiggly one right up here in the front. And you can wiggle. I tend not to do too many wiggly petals because I don't like them. I can do them, you just wiggle your brush, but I don't always like them, so I won't always do them. So let's reach out maybe a little further here and capture some of that violet right into that petal right there, right? And just give the idea, just a couple of touches there for the idea of it. Maybe just an idea of these back here, and let some of the other edges stay soft. You don't need very much to say petal. Now, so watch this, okay? So I'm going to draw this like a bit of this petal and let this kind of fade away over here. Push in and out. Pull the petal down into the bowl. Okay, you could do that with a brush as well. Okay, let's get some of that quinacridone and Diarylide, which is so pretty, and pull some of that in through there. Maybe some of that into this bowl a bit more. In and out. That's so pretty in there. Let's push a little bit of that into here. A little bit more. Right in there. Some of that color. Just love it. There we go. Nice deep color. I'm getting that deeper color that's in there. Right? So a little bit more quinacridone into that. A little deeper. And that's maybe a touch too much quinacridone. Let's add a little. Yellow oxide will take it out faster than any other color because yellow oxide's very opaque. But and we need to preserve that bowl shadow. What was it I told you in the last video all the time? Preserve the shadow, preserve the bowl shadow. Make sure you have, and this is what I just did, make sure you have your shadow out far enough that it can draw the next petal. Does that make sense? That is so important, guys. So important. That is what's going to keep your rose going in the right direction. Before you put on your next petal, you have to make sure that shadow is out far enough that it can make the next petal show up. Otherwise, what's going to happen, and this happens to a lot of people, probably 99.9% of all rose painters when they start out, and we're building light petals, the rose gets whiter and whiter and whiter, more and more and more white, right? And then you'll lose the shape of your rose. And that's because you didn't have your shadow out far enough that will then allow the next light petal to show up. Does that make sense? Boom. So here it comes. Right there. And there it is right there. There's that petal. Right there. Just like you know what you're doing. Let's draw another lighter one right down in here. Let's keep it a little shorter. Just a bit more. Let's add a little more white, a little bit of yellow to this and build this area right up here. A little bit of light and yellow building up that bowl area right there. And maybe just a touch more right up here on that front. Just tap that through. I like that. Now, I'm quite a bit different than the other one here because it has this closed up petals, and you can hardly see that on camera, but it has closed up petals. And I like that on this one, so I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to back out, going to take a little burnt sienna with some of that, and we're going to deepen this shadow further out, soften it so it's not quite shape following. Maybe pull it down into that one, soften that for just a moment. And we'll kind of close up this rose. We close it up by reaching in and putting the center bowl petals up higher here and pulling down. And that starts to close up the petal. Now, we can still have some shadow interest here from some of these petals there. But we'll close up this. And let's just take a soft, a little yellow and light, and just bounce that around back here a bit, so some movement. That's all I want is the movement. And half the time I tell you guys, when I paint a rose, I paint for movement more than anything else. That's what I'm painting for, is just the rounding and the movement that I see in the petal. I don't always paint petals. I paint movement. Let's pull this one further down so it sets coming in behind that one. Right behind this front edge. Let's lighten up this front edge. Now, I'm closed up a little more than that one that I was looking at there, but that's okay. That rose looks kind of good. So I'll put a bit of shadow back down, dropping down this side. Let's let the rose go down into shadow now and just pick up some of these other greens, some of these other colors here, so we get that translucent edge. So I got this shadow here, and then we'll pick up a bit of white right on the edge. We'll roll over on the edge and just tap in a little idea of the petal. Let's pick up just a bit of it here, roll over on the edge, tap in just the idea, maybe this petal. Maybe put a petal right here, just the idea of the petal, okay? We'll tap this right out here like that, and we'll let all that green and stuff sit in there so that rose sets, let's take a bit of this, but that rose, all that green, so that rose sets kind of transparent. Let's reshape a bit of the bowl here. That bowl, get a little bit more quinacridone and stuff down in there, right? And quinacridone, some of that color, let's just get that right down in there a bit. maybe. So see, I just use the ideas. I don't try to copy another rose because that tends to make my roses a little bit more stiff. So I'm just kind of just painting one there. Now, okay, so for this other one, which I really liked, was it had lighter petals in the back, which will go just perfect with what I'm doing here. I'm just going to let these flow together. Little ideas of the petals here. Just some ideas here. Boom, boom, boom. And some real light right up here into the center. Right up here. Boom, right there. See, I paint these a lot faster. And then I'm going to darken down. So now I'm going to take my yellow and my quinacridone and a little bit of the burnt sienna, and I'll paint a more forward petal here, pulling down to the bowl here. So this side sits in shadow, which kind of goes with everything else I have going on here. So this side sits in shadow, and right down here we'll turn one petal coming out here more into the shadow, let some of that green and stuff take over. There's a calyx in there, so you can shape up more of a calyx, push that up into the calyx shape here. Just kind of cradle the petals, and that's how you make your calyx. Kind of just cradle the petals there. Okay, and let's just drop a bit. I just need a touch of those right up there, just to get that color in there. I like that. Not too much on that. I don't want to get wild and crazy, so I like all that. Now, and I love right over here, they have these reddish, the reddish leaves of the young rose leaves, and I just love those. A little bit of green with it, but burnt sienna, a little red stuff. Let's do some of those leaves here, some of those younger kind of reddish leaves here, and pull those down and blur those off like that. Blur those shapes off here. Blur these. And so you see, you know, those of you that follow a lot of my paintings, you see I'll paint. I love this. Ever since I started this real casual contemporary look, it's become very, very popular. I can paint the other more structured looks that I did for years and years, and I can do that. But these contemporary looks are so popular right now. And so I'm painting with a bunch of friends, and we're getting ready for a big show that we're going to do. And so I want to get some really nice contemporary looks out there. So here I added just a bit of green to it, just to take and make it softer. A little bit of these coming out here. Some of these here, just marks of those colors. Yeah, I like those. And yeah, we'll add those in. So, you know, how many of these leaves, you know, the actual roses, when you get out here, doesn't have a lot of leaves around them. I tend to put in more than what is actually around the rose. But, so it doesn't have that many. I'm adding a little green and a little light. This will soften it. Sometimes I'll add a little blue to cool it. But so this will soften this. But I tend to add, you know, in a lot of rose paintings, you don't get a tremendous amount of leaves. Now, see, I think a real ghost set of leaves back here would look neat. Maybe a little bit of a mark here, just ghost, and let's ghost it by thinning it way out, adding some of our backgrounds, light color background here, and so we'll look, and so we're going to immediately soften this out. So I got to make sure my finger's kind of clean here and just pull through just to ghost that just a bit. Let's do the trinity of leaves here, the three here. Pull that into there. Ghost that one. That's pretty, because that gives a nice height to the leaves here. There we go. Ghost that edge. Leave that one little edge, it just pops up. Now you can, if you want to give it a little bit of an idea of a vein line there, sometimes I do. When they get really dark, I'll flip over to a lighter little vein line. Let's go a little bit lighter yet. Maybe a touch more green with that. Just a chisel of your brush, just a light little line. Okay, and let's go over to our siennas here and just add some little bits of marks. You can add, you've seen me before, add like little thorns and stuff, little triangles and stuff, but I'm just looking for a little bit of movement, a little information of movement here. Let's do some soft here, a softer, larger leaf right here. Just the idea of that, a little more burnt sienna and green. And I think I'm not going to do too much more to this painting here. I'll leave this a little contemporary over here. What's all going on? Just movement and stuff. Maybe, the contemporary part of it. So if this looks, too soft for you, if you want a little bit more, you can just take a tiniest little bit of color right out here and add it. See, add some of that into that background, which lifts that off there. Add this other color over here like that, which will change that and lift that. But you can add more darks, you can add more lights. I like just this overall softness. Now I come back sometimes and I say, do I need or do I want to build this peach light color a little bit more? And let's get a fresh paper towel here. Do I want a little bit more light to travel into this rose onto the light side? And I'm always a big advocate of going back and revisiting some of your center of interest flowers. So especially here, and you can see it's going to increase the contrast. See how it increases the contrast here. And it is going to give a little bit more interest. Whether or not you want that interest, that's up to you. I'm going to come back in over that area there, but see, I've got light against light, so I need to restate my shadow before I do that so that the next petal shows up. Does that make sense? Otherwise, if you don't show that shadow, your petal will just keep getting whiter and whiter, and I don't want to get too white here. So let's just pull that in, right in there. And so you see I'm increasing the light on a couple of the front forward petals here of this guy, and seeing if I like that, and I do like it. It's going to increase the contrast here, increase the petaling of it. I like roses to have lots of pretty petals and various colors. So let's just increase a little bit more of the petaling here. A little bit more. Little touches, just a little tiny touch to say there's the edge of a light petal right there. Does that make sense? There you go. Maybe since I did that, I'll increase the light right down onto this one a bit. Right into there. Right in there. Increase the light. And right in here. Increase the light. Maybe a touch right up onto this light side here. And then let the transparency of that one take over. And that's kind of a perfect area really for that yellow to come in there. Let's put a little heavier stroke of that nice Diarylide right in there. There we go. Just like that. That's kind of, that Diarylide would look amazing in here. Right in there. sometimes that takes a lot of bravery to go back in and do that. But you know, one of the things I always tell my students, it's just paint, you know. We painted it once, we can paint it again. And it's taken what? An hour. We've been working on this an hour. It's just an hour of time of trying some stuff to get this, you know, and it goes a lot faster. It goes a lot faster if you paint a moose. Paint a moose right there, that one. You know, yeah. I'm going to turn all of you into, you're not going to be just flower painters, you're going to be artists. And artists can paint anything. Let's put just a touch more light right there. And then I think I'm going to get out of this painting. I think it's a nice painting. And it gives me a good idea of what I can do with my big formal. I'm going to do a formal floral with some other types of flowers in there. Not many, but some different colors of roses, and use these real lost techniques and this flowing of color back and forth. You know, I might break up this right in there. I look at it. See, I got the monitor right here that shows me what you guys are looking at. And I look at it at the monitor. And the reason why I look at the monitor, which is so very important, is because it's like getting back. That camera that is filming that is back, it is back there, right back up over my shoulder, back behind up over here. And it's 8 feet away. And so it's set for 8 feet. So I'm looking at here, just like I got up from my easel and stepped back 8 feet. And that's what I always tell everybody to do, is step back from your easel to take a look at it. And so I can look at it, what it looks like at 8 feet. And that's what I'm looking at. I mean, it looks different on the monitor than it does up here in close, because you see more color, more things going on up here close. But at 8 feet, I want to have enough interest. What I like to do is for the gallery, I like it to have enough interest at 8 feet. Somebody goes, wow, what's that? And they walk to the canvas to see what that is that I just did on there. And so I like that in my paintings. I like that spark into my paintings there. Now, so I'll put that on. And when I do something like this, I tend to do too much, and then I'll soften it out. So I'll push that on, and I like to do just a touch too much, and then because I have that edge of that leaf, I got to go put that back on. I'm not afraid to put stuff, to paint back and forth and put stuff on and destroy an edge and put it back on. I don't get afraid of that stuff. I used to be really afraid of that. Now I'm not. Because I did it once, I can do it again. So let's just take a little bit of that out here. But we'll leave that color up in there. See the color? And we might, that might be really pretty to put a light colored leaf right up against there. So let's go a little bit lighter, a little green, just a little bit of yellow, tiny bit of yellow into that. And we'll push a lighter leaf, some of this lighter color leaf right in there, coming up, yeah. And we'll give the leaf, you got to paint the leaf with the same kind of techniques that your roses use. That's very important. I'll say it again. You got to paint your leaves with the same type of technique that your roses use. So if I get a leaf that's big and shows up a lot, I need to edge it. See how I just edged that? And now that leaf goes with the technique of the painting. Does that make sense? So, but if I make it a soft one, I don't need to worry about it. But if the leaf comes up at any time and starts to, you know, have more power within the painting, then I need to edge it. And that's what I do. I'll need to edge that leaf, right? So I can put just a few little edging marks in here, like there's little leaves and stuff going on. I like that. I'd love to carry this color, though, a little bit transparent over here, just to say I did it, just like that. That's kind of pretty. Just carry that color a little bit. There. Yeah. There you go. Okay, I'm not going to touch it anymore, I promise. So that's a softer technique. It's a wonderful flowing, color in and out. And what reminded me of Oppenheim with Oppenheimer as I was watching, one of the biggest painters, and we lost him this last year. He passed away, and he was such a fantastic man. You've heard me reference him, hundreds of times. And I would go get his 29 steps to painting a portrait. When I started studying portraits, my whole vision of painting changed. And I was showing one of my friends who wants to make, he wants to change his career to become more of a professional artist now, paint to sell artist. And, he's going to be retiring soon, so he wants to, he's going to be retiring in about 8 years, and so he wants to develop his career. And so we were talking about it, and one of the things in this portrait, they're on YouTube, and I want you to go look at this. On YouTube, all of you that paint with me, because this is where I'd like to take you. On YouTube, there's John Howard Sanden, S-A-N-D-E-N, and it's called a 50-year retrospect of his work. And his work is just, he was such a phenomenal artist. And I wrote to him several times. He wrote back. Super nice guy. But he brings this air of professionalism to painting. And I said he brought a professionalism to a portrait. And he says in this 50-year retrospect, he says what they taught was the profession of portraiture. Basically turning it in from just an art where people look at, oh, you're an artist, turned it into a profession and the way in which you approach it. And that's what you do is you like, okay, there's a professional look to some of it. And he started out as an illustrator, and you can see the difference between the illustration and his art. And so this friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine here, he said, David, I want to change it, and I want to take advantage of you being here, and, can you help me build my career? Certainly. I'm doing it for like 6 different artists right now. And so, I said, this is what you do. But first off, we're going to sit down this morning, we're going to have a cup of coffee, and we're going to watch it. It's only an 11-minute video, the John Howard Sanden, the 50-year retrospect. And I said, and it will start to get you thinking professionally as an artist. And it's a different way. You approach it differently. And a professional artist, guys, doesn't insult their work. They realize that they're learning. They realize that that your next painting can be better. As a matter of fact, John Howard Sanden said something in his painting that was magnificent. He said he was always excited about every time that he approached the canvas, because this might be the time that he takes his painting to a next level. So every painting he approached, that it had the ability to take his painting to the next level. And that is exciting. And that's what it is here. And that's the way I approach it. And I have a lot of fun. And I try a bunch of different things. And I'm constantly trying to change my brush, to work my brush. I'm going to put this out as another little, maybe a little one right up underneath here. I'm kindly changing my brush to fit, the professionalism of where I want to go, if that makes sense, right? Okay, so there you go. That's a nice little painting, nice softer little painting of this type of look, how to approach it. And make sure if you want to watch some more of these, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down there. I want all of you to watch the video several times, so I get for the last month I took off, my views went way down, which means my channel collapses a little bit, but that's okay. I needed some time off. But help me by getting some more. Go watch some more videos. And when I put the moose up, watch the moose. Then go back, after you watch that moose, go back and approach the painting of some of these elements here. Not like you've ever painted roses before. Approach it from a very professional way, guys. Even if it's a hobby, it can still be a profession. Does that make sense? And that kind of elevates it all. And it is a great way to look at painting. Great way to look at, because it takes a lot to practice something like this and do it. But Anyway, have a bunch of fun there. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you click that little bell if you want to get noticed when I release a video, okay? Because I'm going to turn around and I'm going to go filming. Matter of fact, I'll probably use the same palette right here, right now. I'll just recharge my white. I think I have maybe my yellow a bit. I'm going to use the same palette. I'm going to go over and I'm going to paint a seascape. Got the board right over there. I'm just going to go have a quick cup of coffee and then come back and I'm going to paint the seascape right into these colors here and apply some of this mousse technique to the seascape too. That'll be kind of fun. We'll see how that goes, okay? So watch for that one. It'll come up at the same time. I might even release them at the same time. We'll see. We're within 5-6 hours of each other. All right? Okay. Thanks very much, guys. And I'll see you at the seascape.